Hello and welcome to our strategy and evaluation workshop. For this session, you'll probably find it helpful to have a piece of paper and a pen in front of you. So if you don't currently have that, then quickly go grab those. And we're going to start by thinking about the question, what do you think of when you think of strategy? So pause this video, take a minute, have a ponder, and then come on back. If you had asked me this question a few years ago, back before I had joined the Just Love staff team, then I am not entirely sure what I would have said. But unfortunately, I think it would have been something along the lines of, that sounds a bit lame, no thanks. If you are familiar at all with Myers-Briggs, then I am about as P as they come. That means I am not a natural planner. It means I thrive in chaos, and I love the adventure that comes with setting off without a plan to just see what happens and figure it out as we go. I did not used to be in the habit at all of setting goals. One of my managers asked me early on in my time on the team about my relationship with goal setting, and I had to ashamedly confess that I wasn't sure if I had ever properly set a goal, never mind achieved one before. However, I promise I stand before you leading this workshop with a little bit of integrity. I am, in fact, a changed woman. Guys, I love strategy because it turns out achieving the things that you are dreaming of is a delightful experience. Actually going where you want to go, fantastic, stunning, I love it. And strategy is all about those core directional choices that best move you towards your hoped for future. It is all those decisions that take you from where you currently are to where you want to be. We'll break that down a bit more in a little bit, but let's start by thinking about why this is so important. If you have caught up with some of the other online training content, then you'll have already heard us talk quite a bit about some of our hoped for futures. And big dreams can so easily lead to overwhelm. I can't even fathom a guess at how many times I've considered a big task ahead of me and just felt stuck, not even knowing where to start. Whether that's essays or tidying a messy room or planning a holiday or facing my email inbox, even the most mundane tasks can feel insurmountable. And so it is unsurprising that when we are faced with the task of raising a network of thousands pursuing justice in the way of Jesus, holistically, fruitfully, and sustainably, in order that God's kingdom of perfect peace and perfect justice may come on earth as it is in heaven, it's no surprise that we might feel a little overwhelmed by that. And I do want to clarify right off the bat, we believe wholeheartedly in the power of Lord Jesus Christ working in and through us to see our vision realised. Strategy is not about us claiming control and depending on our own strength instead of being dependent on God. Instead, I genuinely believe strategy is a God-given tool, a means through which we partner with God and invite him to establish the work of our hands. And I believe this because we see strategies at work all throughout Scripture. Jesus gives the early church a clear instruction in the Great Commission, saying, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit." And the early apostles' approach to this instruction, to this hoped-for future, was not random. For example, Paul recognizes that his role is in mission to the Gentiles, with such conviction and intention that this is presented to the Jerusalem church at the Council of Jerusalem. Paul intentionally sets out on 3 separate missionary journeys, which will each require significant planning. He is intentionally mentored, he intentionally mentors, and he intentionally encourages and challenges different church communities. If we go back even earlier in Scripture, Esther and her cousin Mordecai devise an informed plan to save their people from cruel genocide at the hands of the king's right-hand man Haman. Through both fasting and praying with the Israelites, and also through devising a plan to reveal Haman's plot at a series of banquets, Esther, both in partnership with her community and in partnership with God, saved a nation of people. And we use strategy all the time as a tool in Just Love. In fact, I know that the fact that you are even watching this video that I am recording has been decided through a series of strategic meetings, conversations, making strategies, and then following them through. So, now we've talked a bit about why strategy is so important. Let's spend some time thinking about what strategy is. At a very simplistic level, strategy is all about how we get from one place to another well. If I'm currently at point A, and I'd really like to get to point B, then strategy gets me clear on where I am, on where I want to go, on what might be in the way, and it helps me leverage all of that information to make some solid and informed choices in the right direction. Strategy consultant Erica Anderson uses this definition that I briefly referred to earlier. She says, being strategic is making core directional choices that will best move you towards your hoped-for future. Today, I'm going to be walking you through one particular framework for strategy. But before I introduce that to you, I just want to make it clear that strategy is more than any one framework or any one set of questions. Being strategic will look slightly different for all of us. It uses our individual minds and our individual ways of thinking, whether it's skills of creativity, anticipation, evaluation, planning, analysis, or envisioning. Big picture or details, strategy is how we find our way from A to B. We will all be strategic all the time in lots of different ways. But this is one tool that we find really helpful to use. And so we would love to walk you through this framework. We use it as staff to help us think strategically, and we think it's so good that we want to teach it to you guys too. We have taught this to students for many years, encouraging those in Just Love groups to use it in their monthly strategic meetings. One of the students in Glasgow fed back to me after a year on committee. Strategy is the reason we've been able to do all that we have this year. It has enabled us to change and improve things this year, and it will help me so much in the future too. It is a skill that is both helpful if you are running a Just Love group, but it's also valuable for a whole range of things at any stage of life. Okay, off the back of that glowing review, let me introduce it to you. There is 5 steps in this strategy framework. The first, to define the challenge. This is where we sketch out our overall picture. Second, to assess the present. This is bringing where we are, to that point A, into focus. Third, envisioning the future. This is getting really clear about where we want to go, defining what we mean when we say B. Fourth, we anticipate the obstacles, recognizing what might get in the way. And then finally, we map the route, deciding our path from A to B. And for most of the rest of our time together, we're going to work through these steps in more detail and workshop them together. This gives you a chance to try it out and see how this could work for you. The aim is not necessarily to solve any big challenges today, though if as you're working it through, this ends up being really helpful, then great, that's amazing. But I want to show you how this framework works in practice, so you feel equipped to apply it as you set plans and make goals this year. Just to reiterate, strategy is more than this particular framework, but this framework is really helpful in remembering to look at each part of being strategic, but it's not the only way of doing strategy. That being said, let's get into it. Our first step is to define the challenge. If we want a good solution, then our first challenge is to make sure we are solving the right problem. Whether we are working as part of a team or by ourselves, it is far too easy to think we know the key problem that we need to solve, but to actually be focusing on totally the wrong thing. For example, if I am on the way to my best friend's wedding and then my car breaks down, there are two problems facing me that need to be solved. But in that moment, the most important challenge is not how to fix my car, that will come later, is how on earth am I getting it to this wedding? So this step is all about getting the broad picture before you hone in on the details. It's figuring out all the potential challenges that you might try to solve and then identifying what that key challenge actually is. We find it helpful to phrase that challenge as a how can we question, as we are figuring out the core directional choices that take us to point B. And so our challenge is how we will get there. And so, for our workshop today, let's choose a challenge that we are all facing right now. It's the beginning of a new Just Love year. You're all about to either go back to your university cities, or maybe as you're watching this, you're already there, but with the hope of pursuing justice. And so maybe we go for something along the lines of, how can I get off to a great start in my pursuit of justice this year? I wonder how you feel about that as a challenge. Do you feel clear on where you're heading? Do you think you and I are on the exact same page as I say that? A helpful framework for setting good goals is to use the SMART goals framework. You may have come across it before. It's an acronym, so hopefully easy to remember. It first asks us, is our challenge specific? Could a stranger understand exactly what our challenge is? Is it measurable? Will we know when we have hit our goal? Is it ambitious? Do you feel excited by the goal you have set? Is it realistic? Or does it feel way too overwhelming? And is it time-bound? Do you know when you are going to evaluate your progress and say that it is done? Is that goal that I presented to have the best possible start, to have a great start to our pursuit of justice this year, is it specific? I wonder how you could make it more specific to your context. Is it measurable? How will you know when you've achieved it? Is it ambitious? Is it realistic? Is it time-bound? The answer to all of those, I think, is currently no. So I encourage you to take some time, pause this video, and adapt my not very helpful challenge into a challenge that is smart and that feels helpful for your group or your specific context. And a good way to check if this goal is actually what you want it to be is to take off that how can we that we asked at the start and confirm that what's left is what you actually want to see. Okay, hopefully you now have a smart and well-defined challenge that you are able to take into the rest of the workshop. Our next step is to assess the present. This step is all about understanding where we currently are. When we understand our present, we are able to make more realistic and informed strategic choices, rather than trying to start our journey from somewhere we are not. The main way we do this is through using a SWOT diagram, SWOT. So on the top half it's a quadrant. On the top half, we have our strengths and our weaknesses. These are internal things, the relevant skills and resources that you either have and are able to make use of, or that you lack and are being held back by. And then on the bottom half of the diagram, we have our opportunities and our threats. So these are the external factors and the influences that may impact your success in achieving your challenge. So why don't you write down that quadrant: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And then to assess our present, we simply fill this in. So if we're having a great start to our year of pursuing justice, however that might look like for each of you specifically, then you might want to start to add things like strength. I'm coming away from training and from watching these videos really passionate about justice in the way of Jesus. Weakness. It's exam season coming up and we are all quite tired. Opportunity. There are lots of students in my church I think might be excited about pursuing justice with me. Threat. Students will all start going home at different times, so it's so much harder to plan things this side of summer. Don't worry about getting everything exactly in the right section. It's often hard to decide whether something is internal or external, but the important thing is to get as much information as possible down. What are the facts? Think about each word of your challenge. What comes to mind? Think about your committee if you're part of one. Think about your community or the people around you. Think about your university, your city, the world. What do each of those things bring to mind? And just write down as much information as you possibly can. So again, pause this video, fill out your SWOT diagram, and come back to me in about 5 minutes' time. Okay, I imagine you have a fair amount of information down, and I imagine that if I'd given you longer for that exercise, then you'd have even more. And therefore, to prevent us from getting overwhelmed, and to ensure that we don't make decisions based on something that's actually relatively inconsequential, we are going to sort for impact. You are going to want to get familiar with our friend of Sort for Impact. They will come up a lot in this process. And to sort for impact, we simply ask ourselves, of all of the brilliant things we have come up with here, what are the 1 or 2 things that feel most impactful or important? So, really quickly, take a minute, pause the video. What do you want to highlight in your present as being really key for your hopeful future, which is the challenge you established in step 1? And so we are now ready to move on to our Envision the Future stage, the 3rd stage of our model. Now we feel a bit clearer about where we are. We want to get a better picture of where we want to be. This is the stage for dreaming. It's a really fun stage to be in. Many of you will find that you naturally begin to envision the future whenever you are excited or passionate about something. It's a bit like creating a Pinterest board. We are figuring out what we ideally want our reality to look like when we achieve our challenge and reach our hoped for future. So using the time frame you set when you defined the challenge or the point where you're aiming to hit your goal, you want to get in a bit of a mental time machine and imagine you're there and you've hit your goal. And then you want to answer these questions. What does it look like? What feels exciting here? What's different because you've hit your goal? What's changed in you? What's changed in your Just Love group or in the people around you? What's changed in your city? What's changed beyond that? And what about further down the line? What does it look like then? And then we just write down all these descriptions. So we're just trying to gather as much information about what does our hoped for future look like. So again, pause this video, take about 7 minutes, and then come on back to me. Okay, we should now hopefully have lots and lots of exciting things written down in our hoped for future. At this stage, again, our friend Sort for Impact comes out. And the question we're asking is, which of these things that we've written down feels most critical for success? So again, take a minute, have a read through everything you've just written, and highlight 1 or 2 things that feel like the most key things in this future that you are envisioning. Okay, and we then move on to our 4th stage, anticipating the obstacles. Unfortunately, there will always be something that comes up or gets in the way. Ignoring those obstacles and not going to get rid of them. So we will have to get under them or over them or around them or through them. And this stage is about preparing for them. And again, in order to do this stage, we just make a list. Like with the SWOT diagram that we did before, think about both internal and external factors and think broadly. We can also think about which of these potential obstacles is within our control and which is out with our control. And a helpful place to start here might be by looking at your weaknesses and threats column from your previous SWOT diagram. which of these might be obstacles to reaching the goal that you have set? And as you think about where you currently are and where you'd like to be, what else might create resistance in you getting there? So take 5 minutes, write down all the potential obstacles you can think of, and then come back. Okay, you will never guess what. Our trusty friend Sort for Impact is back. Take a look at that big list you have made and highlight the 1 or 2 things that has the most potential to derail us. Okay, we have reached our final stage. Let's recap. What have we covered so far? We now know where we are, we know where we'd like to be, and we know what might get in the way. All that's left to do now is actually plan how we might get there. There are 2 levels of planning that we do here. We first set out our strategies, and then we figure out our tactics. Can you remember how we defined strategy right at the beginning? Strategy is our core directional choices. We're not doing the nitty-gritty details yet, but we're thinking about the key actions that will get us where we want to be. Once we know our core directional choices, our strategies, we can then figure out those specific actions. And this approach, strategies then tactics, is massively helpful for setting really good tactics, because it means if any action point is not in line with our strategy, then actually that is not the way forward. So, when you're event planning, your strategies might be book a venue, invite a speaker, get lots of people in the room. And then your tactics would be email a few churches, weigh up the venue pros and cons, fill in the venue booking form, email the speaker, write a brief, book in a call with them, advertise on social media, invite all your friends, etc., etc., etc. Or if you wanted to deepen your own understanding of the climate crisis, your strategies might be read some books, chat with an expert, engage with some local action, join the campaign. And then your tactics would be ask people you trust for book recommendations, go to the library or find out who you can borrow those books from, research experts who are near you and who would be up for a chat, reach out to them, organise a coffee, and so on. So first, how do we come up with our strategies? You may have some ideas off the bat. If so, great, note those down. Some things that might help generate some ideas are to look back at your sorting for impact. To any of the things that you have highlighted at each stage, spark some courses of action. Read through each of the previous stages. What are the overarching themes coming through? And then think outside the box. Put yourself in someone else's shoes and ask lots of hypothetical questions. What advice would you give to a friend? If you were chatting to the wisest person you know, what might they advise? Or even, what would you definitely not do? And if you had to do that, how would you make the best of it? So take a few minutes, write down those core directional choices. Remember that we're just thinking about strategies at this stage. If you're someone who finds it easy to jump straight to the details, then that is going to be super helpful in the next stage. But I'd encourage you to resist that urge and think about just those core directional choices rather than specific action points. Come back in about 5 minutes' time. Okay, so once you have your long list, you've guessed it, we sort for impact again. Which of all of the potential strategies that you have would move you closest to overcoming your challenge? Take 1 minute to have a think about that. And now you've got your strategy. You've been strategic. Give yourself a pat on the back. To complete the process, you wouldn't quite be done yet. There's no point picking a strategy if we don't start to put it into action. So you then figure out your tactics, the what, the who, and the when. These should come directly from the strategies, so you can break them down into specific steps. And each tactic should answer these 3 questions. What is the action that needs to happen? Who is doing the action? And when will the action happen? You'll then write these all down, check in with others to help keep you accountable to doing them. And that is how you make a plan to get from A to B. And so now we've got our strategy and we've got our tactics. There is one final thing to talk about, and that is evaluation. Evaluation is the flip side to strategy. Where strategy is looking forward, evaluation is looking back. There's not much point setting goals and mapping the best strategic route for a challenge if there's no follow through on whether any of our plans actually happened. Evaluation is a chance to learn from what you've done, and it helps you to stay strategic, to keep moving towards our overall vision. Evaluation is an important moment in any process. It allows you to celebrate all that went well. It allows you to encourage those that you journeyed with. It allows you to give thanks to God. It also allows you to notice what was less effective, to name what was hard, and to continually improve your processes and your strategies and your tactics in order to have as much impact as you can. And so how to evaluate well is really simple. Firstly, we track data. If you are on a Just Love committee, then we have a specific system for this. There are key things that we will ask you to evaluate throughout the year. If you're a treasurer or a secretary or a local coordinator, then you in particular will need to know how to do this. So if you've read your role-based session worksheet, you still don't feel sure, then please chat to your staff worker about this. But for all of us, tracking data is all about basing our evaluation in reality. It is about sitting with the cold, hard facts. This isn't the only way we can tell how well an event or a project or a goal has gone. But if we've set goals that are measurable, then the data tells us how close we've come to achieving those goals in clear, objective ways. Secondly, we want to check in on our goals. And we don't just want to do this right at the end when it's too late to adjust anything. We want to do this regularly. So for those of you who are on a committee and are having regular tactical meetings, then do it then. For those of you who are doing this as an individual, book in times to regularly check in. Are you on track? Are you following your strategies and tactics as planned? Has another obstacle or opportunity come up that means it's wise to pivot? And thirdly, as you evaluate, ask lots of questions. Ask what went well. Ask why did it go so well? Ask what didn't go well and why not? Ask yourself, what will I do or change next time? These questions will help you evaluate whether it went well and will help you learn from the experience. So next time you're asking strategic questions and being strategic, you know a little more of where you are and can move a little bit closer to where you want to be. This isn't a one-time process, but it all adds up. We want to think about the core directional choices that best move us towards our hoped for future, because the hoped for future at Just Love is a big one. We ultimately want to see true justice. We want to be a part of what Jesus reads from the scroll of Isaiah in Luke 4, to proclaim good news to the poor, to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, recovery of sight for the blind, freedom for the oppressed, and the year of the Lord's favour. So enjoy being strategic, and let's see justice done through making core directional choices towards this hoped for future of ours.